well, all right, let's go from this 5G ENDC to standalone, which means, you ready for this? You guys ready for this? Let's just take all that 5G stuff and just throw it away. Oh my goodness, you should, the EPC guys, the Evolved Packet Core guys, they just go ballistic. They just like, can't, whoops, sorry, circled the wrong thing. They're like, you got to be kidding me. This is the dumbest thing in the world. So this is where I was getting all of the feedback from. It's like, oh, this is so dumb. Can't believe we're doing this. Why don't we just do this and stay like that forever and ever? So it became clear at that point to me that I now see the issue. I now totally understand what's going on. So let me talk about what does happen then to cross the line to 5G standalone. And why does this ultimately make sense? Well, let's address it from an engineering perspective, first of all. The MME, SGW, PGW, I like it, but and you can do some of this stuff with cloud, but SGW, PGW probably would make more sense, more hardware-ish, or at least application-specific integrated circuits just to keep up with the high bit rates that we're going to run at a gigabit per second now. So here is actually what happened in the design. The MME basically splits right down the middle. And the portion of the MME that's concerned with access management is properly called the access management function. The part of the MME which was concerned with actually setting up the APNs, the access points, in other words, setting up the channel that would connect you to the IMS for voice, setting you up with a separate connection for the internet, the session management, well, that splits off and goes over to, well, session management function. So if you really learn anything from me in this short discussion, then understand that if you could somehow put the AMF and the SMF together, largely it would perform the task that the MME would have done. But I will argue, orchestrated in a much better fashion. Now, the next thing I want you to see is, do we really need that SGW? What if I move most of the SGW function into the PGW and a little bit of it into this CU? Then I can scrap that box and we wind up with a CU speaking right, that's the control unit, right to the UPF. No SGW in this picture. Now, the function of the SGW did move into the user plane function. So I'm going to say that most of the SGW became part of the PGW. But here's the thing. I like it that the MME separated from the baseband unit, and the SGW is sort of a software-defined network thing. Let's do the same thing with the PGW. Let's yank its brain out like this and, well, call it the SMF. So the SMF is actually the brains, that's the session management functions of the UPF. You realize what this means? This means that basically we took this half of the MME and gave it ironclad control over the PGW. And if you just think it through, assuming that we can manage policies and I don't think I'm going to convince you of that in the 15 minutes we have remaining here, but trust me, the policy processing is genius how this works when we cross the line. So then what is all this stuff that we see up here? That's all the control. That's the intelligence. And at this stage of the game, if you're trying to get your arms around it, look at it like this. The AMF and the SMF. Think of it as like an MME, which can have a browser. It's like you sitting at Chrome and you browse these things. I want you to think of all these green squares up above here as web servers. It's not sort of like this, guys. It's exactly like this. This is a RESTful interface. So we see the AMF and the SMF as basically consuming information served up by these individual web servers that you see up here. Now, the idea is that rather than have all of this combined into a single thing like the HSS, rather than combining them all into one thing like that, we break them into their separate functions. And now we're into the world of microservices and able to deploy this using things like Kubernetes, which is really compelling. So, and then of course, I want a central database to keep everything statefully aligned. And now you wind up with a control plane, excuse me, apologies, a user plane, that's the bearer channel, which by the way could go to the IMS. The IMS didn't really change, very similar to the way it was before. The access to mobile edge computing, and yeah, we could actually go into the internet as well. Now, what we would have called APNs in the past, access point names, are actually now called PDU sessions. But if you understand an APN, then you would understand a PDU session. And ultimately, what I want to show you then is, let's use, oh, I don't know, let's use red. Let's use red to represent the control plane. Yeah. And I'm going to drive it all the way down like that. So there's the control trapezoid. Here are the main players, right? Let's use yellow and show you the user plane traffic. That's the phone actually surfing the internet, for instance, would go like this, straight shot, right straight through. Now, the orchestration and management of all of this to make sure you're getting what you pay for, no more, no less, will be all of these services, which we would, in a normal class, we would go right straight down through them and explain what every one of those components would do. From managing network slice selection function to the best service discovery on the planet I think I've ever seen, to a policy management, authentication services. It's actually quite brilliant. Lastly, I'd say this stuff that I'm circling right now, arguably even these components, is all software now. That's not hardware. That's all cloud-based stuff, and it can run in microservices. That's where it gets really compelling. And the cost then to convert, it's astronomical because we're basically discarding this stuff. But if you figure that is already sunk costs, then bringing up the control plane on all cloud services is actually pretty compelling.
This video is brought to you by Alta3 Research. We offer training solutions both on-site and online so that you can choose the method that works best for you. If you like this video, check out the links in the description box below for more information on our course offerings. Please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to see more videos like this one. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.